You were listening to a Nerd Room podcast, a member of the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network. Be sure to check out more from the Star Wars Commonwealth on the web at starwarscommonwealth.com and take your first steps into a larger world. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Nerd Room, where we talk all things comics and movies. This is episode number 64. We're discussing Logan. I'm one of your hosts, Tim.
I'm Troy.
And I'm Sunjay.
Wrong franchise.
Ah, man, what's the Logan voice? Yeah.
Oh.
He's very, like, gravelly.
That's a good Batman.
Yeah, that's supposed to be Wolverine, you know? He's like,
That's exactly like Batman.
Okay, let's try that again. I'm Sunjay. Ah. Does that make
Lots
sense?
of yelling. Lots of yelling to the sky.
Yeah.
Almost Palpatine.
This isn't Origins, okay?
Logan marks the official kickoff of the 2017 comic book movie season. It is also the 10th entry into the X-Men franchise, a franchise that has been around since 2017 years with some of these characters.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the first X-Men movie when I was 12 years old. So I've had this character, I mean, Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine from the time I was 12 to when I was 29.
Yeah.
It's quite incredible. He's been Wolverine longer than I've been, more than half my life.
Yeah, he's actually the single man that holds the record for the longest portrayal of a single superhero, which is crazy. 9 portrayals of the same character. It's unprecedented almost. But Patrick Stewart isn't too far behind him. He is at his 6th portrayal of Professor X.
Wow.
If you include the various cameos, particularly the one in X-Men Origins that most people actually forget about.
Yeah, that was kind of like a Princess Leia, or what's that other guy's name from
Tarkin.
Rogue One? Tarkin from Rogue
Yeah,
One.
because it's like all CG, isn't it?
Yeah,
Pretty
He's
much.
also standing upright,
Yeah,
which is weird.
which is really weird.
Makes
I'm
no
curious
sense.
what Robert Downey Jr. is at. Must be
Ooh.
climbing up there.
Yeah, he is. We'd have to count it out, but I think he's probably upwards of 7, maybe 8 by the time we get to Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah.
I have to
Okay.
fact check that one.
Cool.
So would you say Hugh Jackman is the single greatest performer of one character in a comic book movie as Wolverine?
I give it to J.K. Simmons as J.J. Jonah.
Well, you know, he could be in, what's his name? Detective
Gordon.
Gordon, yeah. He
Jim
could be
Gordon.
James Gordon.
Yeah.
I'd have to give it to Downey, I think.
You think?
I
Downey
think he embodies
over
the character.
Jackman?
Yeah.
Really?
He's had more consistent outings as the character.
I feel
think.
like his movies have been more consistent in terms of quality, but even in like the bad X-Men films like Origins, Jackman was still like good in those films.
Yeah, I think pound for pound, I gotta go with Downey.
Yeah?
too. Yeah, and I have to
It's
go
close.
with Downey.
It's close. It's 1-2 for sure.
He's pretty comic book accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think with Logan too, with Hugh Jackman as Logan, the story around him elevates the character. Like, I agree, Jackman is always on point.
Yes.
I've always
Yeah.
loved his portrayal of Wolverine. I can't see anyone else in that role.
No.
But the story around him sometimes just doesn't allow him to have the freedom to act the way he should or can.
Yeah.
I think this movie gives him a lot more freedom to act, but sometimes I think the story does dampen his portrayal of the character.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough. I mean, maybe we'll get into this for our rankings a little bit later, but yeah, it's definitely more up and down in terms of the X-Men universe compared to the MCU,
Yeah.
especially Iron Man films. Although, you know, Iron Man 2 and Iron Man 3 aren't like shining pieces of happiness.
Yeah, Iron Man 3 is pretty weak, but still a lot stronger and more successful than the Wolverine standalones, I'd say.
Yeah. All right, we'll throw it out to the Twitterverse.
And YouTube.
You too. You know, let us know who's the number one.
Who's the
Downey
real
or
Iron
Jackman?
Man?
So we spent a lot of time in the last few months discussing this movie. We've had lots of trailers, lots of variations of trailers. The tone has shifted somewhat from that original Johnny Cash trailer into what we got towards the end here. We discussed last week with Chris over at Alpha Comics. Make sure you go check out Alpha Comics here in Calgary. We discussed a lot about the comic book iterations of Old Man Logan in particular, and X-23. And we kind of theorized a bit and speculated where we thought they were going to pull some of their inspiration from. And as we go through this review, I'm going to try to point out again where I think they actually did now, having seen the movie. And throughout our discussions over the last couple months, we've had varying levels, particularly myself, of excitement for this movie. I was originally way on board, and then I came right off the wagon, and then I slid back around towards the end of this
Marketing
campaign.
Thank you.
Oh, we both said it at the same time.
towards the end of the marketing campaign, I came right back on board with this. And even last week, I expressed how excited I was for them pulling in some of these stories. I just want to quickly gauge each individual here as far as your excitement level going into this film. As your ass is in the seat, how are you feeling?
You know, I haven't read a single Wolverine comic, or an X-Men comic for that matter, probably. Actually, that's not true. I read X-Men Onslaught. But I was super jacked. Like, going into it, I've been reading the reviews, and I've been hearing people hyping this movie up, saying, you know, this is the best thing since The Dark Knight. This movie's gonna slay. This movie's gonna kill it. So I'm like, okay, I'm really pumped. I'm really excited. You know, I got my popcorn ready. I'm sitting in the seat. The theater's half empty, mind you, which is crazy to me. But yeah, I was 10 out of 10 excitement level.
Yeah, I was right there with you, man. I was super hyped for this film. You know, I got a lot of I got a lot of Wolverine comics going on. I follow the X-Men, so you know, I'm pretty fair when it comes with Wolverine properties and X-Men properties. And when I got on my seat, man, I was pumped, especially after seeing the Deadpool 2 trailer teaser. I was really amped up for this movie.
Yeah. And it's hard to stay away from the critical reception, the critical response for movies, especially when they're getting praise. I find more so now than ever, either a movie is praised or a movie is just crapped all over. There doesn't seem to be much in between anymore.
No.
Especially with the last few movies that we've gotten. Like when you're looking at Batman vs. Superman versus Civil War. It was like, this is the best movie ever versus this is the worst movie ever.
Yeah. Your opinion.
No, I'm just saying. I'm just taking from a critical response and how
Critics loved it.
Yeah.
Well, and it's an interesting point too, especially when you bring the factor like Avenger, which was praised like crazy, and then Part 2 came out and people were kind of like, but the thing is, it wasn't necessarily a bad movie. It just wasn't as good as Part 1, but therefore people kind of like put at the bottom end.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and the praise has been heaped on this thing. It has a 93+% certified fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. It's been praised for the darker, grittier take on Logan compared to his other outings, his other solo outings. It's being complimented for its transcendence beyond the comic book movie genre itself, and really hailed for the individual performances in there, particularly from Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart. And it's the character story beyond the spectacle that is a comic book movie that I think a lot of people endured to. And critics are calling for Oscar nominations for this. There's, like you said, Sunjay, people are saying this is the best comic book movie of all time, even relative to The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
People are calling it Marvel's Dark Knight. And when you look at other websites like comicbook.com, their composite ranking has it second all time, just behind The Dark Knight and just ahead of the likes of Civil War, Guardians of the Galaxy, Iron Man, Avengers. Wow. So going into this is a universally praised movie, something that we're not always used to getting. And I found it really hard to dampen my expectations because of the praise that was going into this. And I felt that, I agree, I walked into this theater hyped beyond no end. I'm excited for Hugh Jackman. I'm excited for the return of Patrick Stewart. And I'm also excited for the adaptation, or what I thought was going to be the adaptation, of the Old Man Logan storyline. And I think that's hard to get around, that level of excitement, because I found myself almost too high coming into this. And there's aspects of this movie that I love, but there's also aspects of this movie that I just wasn't pleased with. And before we really get into our full review here and breaking this down kind of in a more chronological style like we usually do with our movie reviews, I just want to throw one thing out there, because this is something that I've personally been struggling with over the last few reviews we've done. It's trying to find that middle ground as a fanboy, as a reviewer. I recorded the Talk Star Wars Roundtable, so that's dropping this month, and it's just a group of Star Wars fans over on the Talk Star Wars feed where we discuss different things by bringing in the listeners, and they ask kind of live questions. It's a lot of fun, had a lot of fun recording, so go check that out later this month. But one of the topics that we did discuss was our responsibility as fans to make an attempt to shine the positivity on these films while not always focusing on the negative. And focusing on the negative is a very easy thing to do. It's a very easy thing to pick apart someone's work. And the thing that I've been struggling with is walking this fine line between being completely and outright honest with my review and then not being overly negative, because I don't ever want to be known as the negative guy. I know I kick around DC and some part of me feels like that's just because it's a little bit funny. But when we have this type of praise being heaped on a movie and I walk out of the movie, spoiler for potentially how I feel about this, not on that same level or that same plane of excitement, I really struggle this week putting together a review. And I just want the listeners to know that, you know, I acknowledge our responsibility of being reviewers, of being podcasters, to not only point out the things that maybe we don't like, but also to praise the things they did well, because that's what this genre needs, is to be praised for the things it does well. And never mistake any sort of negativity, particularly from me, for some sort of toxic fanboy hate on DC or the aspects that aren't the MCU, because that's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to give an opinion, and I'm never going to turn away anyone else's opinion. I'm very welcoming of whoever loved this film or whoever to comment, to question, to debate the merits of the film itself. So I just really wanted to throw that out there, because like, and the kind of the point I'm trying to make is that everyone, and this is what you said to me, Sunjay, everyone sees this movie in a different light. Everyone wants something different from a movie.
Yeah.
And don't take any sort of negativity from this and as me trying to ruin your experience for a movie. I'm going to judge this movie based on the merits that I see, and you guys are going to do the same thing. But that's just what it is. It's our own opinion, and we welcome other opinions. So, that being said...
sorry, I'm just going to inject here. As the great Kevin Smith said, you know, it's our duty as comic book fans to go out and see these movies. You know, even if you hear negative things about them, that doesn't necessarily mean you're not going to enjoy them. I mean, there's certain movies that are critically panned that we all have. We had a whole episode of hidden gems, or, you know, ones that we were kind of like our guilty pleasures.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny, Tim, you know, it seems like... you know, when we do these podcasts, you know, I think like I bring like the levity and you're like the more like serious guy. But then like when we like go and we watch our movies, it's like flipped. It's like I want the more like serious DC comics and you like the more like comedic MCU. So it's kind of interesting, like the dichotomy there where you're like, oh yeah, like the MCU is like my jam, and I'm like, no man, I like it dark and gritty. Like I want to see more guns and more violence. And where do you fit on this, Troy?
This wide spectrum.
I'm in the middle grounds, man. I appreciate both properties. I love comic books so much that I just want to see them adapted well, right? Yeah. So I just expect the most out of them. Simple as that.
Yeah.
And this movie, a lot of people expected a lot out of it, and the box office really reflects that. This movie pulled in $88 million, just over $88 million, over its first opening weekend, which puts it fourth all-time for opening for an X-Men franchise film, just behind X-Men Days of Future Past, which is a pretty impressive feat. This is the highest-grossing solo outing for Logan, for Wolverine, and it's the second highest behind Deadpool for the franchise for a solo outing. Okay. So it's a pretty impressive haul, even taking in almost $250 million globally over the weekend.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So this is a big movie. This is a big opening. This is on par with Winter Soldier, with Guardians, with these type of solo outing movies. And being that X-Men Apocalypse only scored $65 million last year during around the same time frame, the other Wolverine movie only did 53. That was only a couple of years ago, I think 2013 or 14.
13 or 14,
yeah.
Big 13, yeah.
So this movie not only has the hype got behind it, but I think that they've put a lot of effort into the marketing campaign for this. This was a very different movie from a marketing standpoint. You look at what Deadpool did, and you look at what Logan did, and it contrasted quite heavily from the other CGI spectacles that we've seen in the past. This movie was pitched as a Western. We're looking at the IMAX poster right now, and it looks incredible. It does not look like a comic book movie. And I think that has a big part as to why people were drawn to this a bit more. They were looking for something different.
Yeah, I mean, the director James Mangold here, he said when he pitched it, he mentioned something about it being like a bloody version of Little Miss Sunshine, like a road trip movie.
Seems a bit demented.
Yeah, but it makes sense when he says that. Yeah, this is something totally different. You know, people I think are getting a little bit sick, not sick and tired, but I think general audiences are getting a little bit bored with the traditional comic book origin story, where you have the hero gains his powers. You know, those movies. It seems like people are wanting to some more experimentation, whether that's an R-rated Logan film or breaking the fourth wall in Deadpool. It seems like Fox is willing to do that, and you know they've had great success with Deadpool and Logan doing that.
They found their niche, and that's more violent and more swearing.
Yeah.
And it's adapting these grittier tone. Like, we got into that with The Dark Knight, and then they really swung away from that with the MCU, and now we see them kind of going back into a different sort of dark and gritty. This is a more realistic, I think even more realistic than The Dark Knight from the standpoint of a comic book movie. The Dark Knight was realistic because it felt like it could happen in the real world.
Right.
This,
Yeah.
not as much.
I hope not.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So when did you guys see this? I saw this opening day Thursday on the IMAX screen.
Yeah.
And I mentioned on my Twitter, it's my 11th straight comic book movie that I've seen in theaters. So that's my Iron Man streak now. Have you guys beaten that? Have you guys taken a look?
What does that take you back to?
So the only one I missed was Days of Future Past when I was studying. So I didn't see that one, but I caught up on the last, I think, like 3 or 4 years.
I'd have to be pretty close to that. I'm trying to
Yeah.
think back to where maybe how far back is Dark Knight Rises?
Dark Knight Rises 2012.
Yeah, it might have been since like Avengers Dark Knight Rises. I've seen everything
Wow.
straight.
Wow, that's impressive.
Is that just for superhero films in general?
Yeah.
Theatrical release? Yeah. That's tough. I mean, I've gone back all the way. Shoot.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, I don't
Troy
think I've
might
missed
be the
anything.
Iron Man.
Iron
I've
Man?
gone back. Yeah, because I've gone back all the way since Iron Man. Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. Iron Man, Spider-Man, all that.
Yeah, you see that Kick-Ass?
Oh, I didn't see Kick-Ass.
Oh, okay, because
you
Kick-Ass
got
2, Kick-Ass 2, I missed that one
You
too.
got
Yeah,
me
I didn't
there.
see that, no.
Yeah,
And I
so-
didn't see
got me.
Kingsman in theaters either.
Oh, okay. Oh, I wasn't including Kingsman.
Okay.
I was just doing straight like superhero.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah, you got me there. Yeah, no, I saw this on Saturday at its peak of its hype.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, it was Thursday night. I saw it in AVX. Like you said, the theater wasn't as full as I thought it was going to be.
No, that was like half full.
I'm gonna say mine was about 3/4. People were amped up for it. People were excited to see this. And the opening sequence of this film, I heard that there was an opening credit scene,
Yeah.
and I really didn't think much of it at the time. I was always waiting for the post-credit scene to be some sort of tease, either for X-23 or Deadpool.
Right.
But Fox has flipped the script here and done a pre-credit scene teasing Deadpool 2. This was a welcome surprise for me to see Ryan Reynolds flip open the hood,
Yes.
drop the F-bomb,
Yeah.
and just have this just brilliant interaction with himself.
Yeah.
Like everything from him running into the phone booth and the Superman theme music playing.
Loved it.
Yeah, it was beautifully
taking too long to change.
Yeah.
That's incredible. It's well executed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just makes me feel better about all the directorial changes and the story changes we're getting for Deadpool 2. They seem to have kept that tone, but also did something very different. And did you notice on the side of the phone booth it said Nathan Summers coming, CUMMM, coming soon, which
Oh,
is Nathan
really?
Summers is Cable.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. Or X-Men, because I guess there's two. Like there's the X-Men.
Yeah.
And then there's
True.
Cable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's again breaking that fourth wall because he saw up on the marquee it said Logan playing
Yeah.
tonight, and they
That's
guess the
awesome.
Wolverine or Logan. I keep interchanging them. But saw the Logan poster in the background there, so those were a lot of fun. It was a great way. I got people really excited, like you said, Troy. Like
Yeah.
people were like, "Wow, this is impressive! I'm ready to go." In its interesting way, it kind of contrasts what Marvel and other companies have done in the past, even Fox,
Yep.
with this tease at the end and this tease at the start to get people jacked up.
Right.
It really worked for me.
You know, you bring up an interesting point, and I'm just going to read a quote here from the director, James Mangold, when he was speaking to the Toronto Sun. Not a local paper, but a newspaper in Canada. You may have heard of it. He said, I'm going to do my best James Mangold voice. The only way... No, I'm just kidding. The only way we came out with a different movie was trying to do it differently. So I was pretty fanatical about saying, if this is how these other movies are doing it, we're going the other way. If there's normally a cameo or an end credit scene, we're not doing that. That's essentially turning it into a product that has to come out of the widget machine the same way every time. And that's not how the best movies are going to get made in any genre. So he's throwing down the gauntlet a little bit there with the Marvel post-credit scenes.
Yeah.
It's interesting, you know, this beef between Fox and Marvel, I think it's widening.
Yeah, you can see it there. Like, I think it comes down a little bit now that Fox is, like I said, seemingly found its niche. It's found its groove. They know what they're doing now, or at least seem to know what they're doing. And we're going to talk a little bit here in a couple seconds about the continuity and what they're building there and how they're kind of ignoring that. But because they found their footing, I feel like they can be a little more bold. They're not trying to emulate so much the MCU anymore. They're doing their own thing. The MCU, Kevin Feige has explicitly said, you'll never hear us drop an F-bomb.
Yeah.
Really?
And the violence is there, but it's really toned down. You're never going to see blood splatter or anything like that in the MCU. So MCU has their niche. Fox has found their niche. DC is looking for theirs.
Yeah.
They will find it, I think,
You look
at
and
some
you shall
point.
find.
They got villains.
They got Wonder Woman.
Yeah, they do have
Yeah,
villains.
they
We
got
have a
villains.
Wonder Woman.
Yeah, going back to the director though, I really feel like he found his niche.
Yeah.
He did start off with the Wolverine, and I
Yeah.
felt like there's a lot of potential in that film. And I feel like this time he really got to execute those things. You know, this time around with Logan. Yeah.
And it's interesting that they went back to James Mangold because it's usually, especially with the way the Wolverine performed, like people are always behind this character, and it did make a ton of money. But usually at that point, they kind of pitch the director and try something new. But they let him come back, and that may have benefited the movie because they went back and he learned from his mistakes, at least some of them, I think, particularly when it comes to allowing Hugh Jackman to be Wolverine, to be Logan. And I think that is very true, Troy. That's a great point to bring up, that he has learned from his mistakes.
Yeah, I think Hugh Jackman had a lot to do with that as well. I think they really get along together, and I think he said, if I'm going to do this one more time, I want to have James Mangold.
Right.
Yeah. Don't quote me on that, but I'm sure that's exactly how it went down.
Well, he's very praiseworthy of what James Mangold did in The Wolverine, as well as what he did here. So I think having that continuity, and Hugh Jackman, I'm sure he's a producer on this, so he's got a heavy hand, heavy investment, particularly because he had announced that this was his last portrayal. He wants to go out with a bang. He doesn't want to leave this franchise on an X-Men Origins Wolverine type note.
No.
You don't want to leave a character, especially a character you've been portraying for 17 years, who is basically the character that people are going to remember you by forever.
Right.
You do not want to leave that on a sour note, particularly with the fandom. Because then you're always going to be thinking, what if? Should I come back? I told him this was my last time, but I have to do it again. So I think that he landed on something that he was satisfied with. Even Patrick Stewart announced before the movie dropped, this was his last time as Professor X. And they were both very happy with how their character arcs ended in this film. And I think it's going to be great by the time we get to the end of this review for us to give our individual opinion to see if we agree how those two in particular, how their arcs ended with this, and if we're satisfied with the way the 17-year journey with these two characters has ended. So let's get into the movie itself. We're going to kick it off here discussing the timeline of it. This is a particular point of contention with me with the X-Men. I love myself some continuity. I tried to break it down the last couple episodes. I know it's not as easy when I'm speaking about it to visualize. So someday I'm going to throw it up there, but this continues to drive me up the wall. I don't like to start at a negative note.
Yeah.
So this is just a small nitpick. This really doesn't have much effect on the film overall, except for people like me that really pay attention to these nods. And this movie's set in 2029, so 5 years-ish after, 6 years after the events of what I thought was the end credit scene in Days of Future Past, with the reawakened or the rebirthed X-Men universe coming off of the 1973 Days of Future Past timeline split. But one of the first quotes that they drop out here at some point when we're referring to continuity is, there hasn't been a new mutant born in 25 years. So that would take us all the way back to 2004 in this timeline.
Okay.
And if you remember X3, X2...
Yeah.
Like X3 was 2006. There's kids running around.
Yes.
Yeah.
In X-Men Days of Future Past post-credit scene, there's kids running around that school.
Yeah.
That makes no sense to me. None whatsoever. This throws this into a complete cluster. Drives me nuts. Drives me off the wall. Like, this movie focuses in, I said this last week, this movie focuses in a lot on mutations. This whole franchise, actually. Genetics, cloning, human manipulation. Even this movie itself playing God. And this is an overarching theme that we see throughout the entirety of this franchise. And if we go right back to the first lines in X-Men, in the opening credits scene, I went back and rewatched this. There's a quote from Professor X saying, "Mutation, it is the key to our evolution. It enables us to evolve from a single-celled organism into the dominant species on the planet. This process is slow and normally taking thousands of years, but every few hundred millennia, evolution leaps forward." Those are the first words we ever heard Professor X, Patrick Stewart, speak in an X-Men film. This was followed up in X2 with a similar type of opening monologue that says, and I'm going to paraphrase, I'm not going to read the whole thing, "Are mutants the next link in the evolutionary chain, or are they simply a new species of humanity fighting for their share of the world?" So I do not know why they just didn't simply say the X gene was dying. I'm going to read one more thing here.
He's got a book, guys, and it's even like tabbed
It's
and everything.
tagged.
Oh, yeah.
This is from the Old Man Logan storyline.
Okay.
Here. This is why this particularly drives me nuts. This is Emma Frost talking. This is about halfway through the book. And she's talking about how there's no mutants left. She says, "There's 20 of us now, and not a single mutant born in close to 40 years. We were a blip, Logan, nothing more than a genetic anomaly." Why they didn't go down this path and just didn't simply say the X gene is dying out. You can play off this, or you can riff off this whole thing with Wolverine losing his powers, with Professor X losing his powers, with Caliban losing his powers. It just drives me mental that they just didn't take the time to set this up properly. Like, I don't know, this could have been a beautiful way to close out this overarching arc of mutation genetics. This just saying that they were simply an anomaly, that they were on the verge of extinction, and this is why we don't see the mutants. But we get, and spoiler, I guess we should say, spoilers for this whole movie.
Yeah, this thing is going to be spoiled.
I guess that's somewhat
like
implied.
milk left out on the hot summer day.
But eventually we do get the revelation that it was the Transigen company in the cornstarch, or whatever, corn syrup, that poisoned all the mutants. Yeah. Like, that just seems like a throwaway line that doesn't matter. It doesn't fit into this universe.
It's a throwaway plot, kind of.
It is, but there seems to be, like, I just like this idea that there's something, this overarching theme in this whole continuity of the X-Men universe. And the fact that they didn't just take a second to read this Old Man Logan book and put that in there, it drives me nuts.
But if they said it hasn't been, like, a mutant born in 40 years, then that would be, like, what, 2060?
I'm not saying the exact like number or whatever, but just the idea that the gene was just a blip, an anomaly amongst the rest of the evolutionary chain here, and that's why we don't see the mutants anymore. It was nature's test, and it failed, and then they started going extinct, and that's simply it.
Well, they probably want to set up future X-Men movies after this, right? So
they kind of evolved into that by saying, hey, we can just make them ourselves.
Or, and then they can have, once they figure out the cornstarch, get rid of that, and then you can start having mutants again.
I guess there's some implication there that once they've killed all the mutants, I don't know.
I think this is a good time to talk about continuity. I mean, we're all talking about it now. So James Mangold, he has a lot of quotes. He has a lot of interesting quotes, in preparing for this movie and pumping it up. And one of his quotes, well, several of his quotes I'll read, but one of them he said, this is a film about characters, not information, in regards to continuity. So he really wanted to focus on the characters and less so on this happened in X1, so we got to make sure that, it carries forward. And so when he's talking about that, he says, this is an interview he had with Vice, the website. Have you guys read this before?
No.
No? Okay. So James Mangold, director of Logan, says, I question the wisdom of the Marvel Cinematic Universe in general. Pretty bold statement off the bat. He said, one thing everyone's concerned about is the creativity and quality of these kinds of movies. And if that's the case, then it seems to me that the first order of business would be figuring out why they're not more interesting or exciting. In many ways, that has a lot to do with freedom. Fans and the internet sites that serve the fans put a lot of stress on continuity. Tim included.
A massive amount.
And the idea that you should be able to cut these movies into one continuous 9-hour, and he mentions Berlin Alexanderplatz of comic bookdom. That's nothing innately wrong with that, I guess, but it's a counter movie. When you find yourself in the captain's chair of one of these movies, you feel a little like Houdini. You're in a restraint system and you're trying to figure out how to get out. Having made one of these movies already, it occurred to me that the way to get out is to build a movie that functions for anyone, not just people who have seen the other movies. You have to let go of whatever you need to let go of to make the movie function, in the same way that every comic book artist in the history of comic books has let go of what their predecessors did. I think fans would be a lot happier with the movies if they looked at the comic books the way we look at Shakespeare, where we invite directors to take the material wherever they want, and then we judge them by the results. So a lot to digest there. Just want to get your thoughts after hearing the Mangold.
It's interesting if he'd say that, though, if there was success to the Wolverine. Would he be saying those same things? I mean, obviously he says he's learned his mistakes, basically, from the last movie. But if that was a hit, because that was clearly led up to be another movie taking place after that film, if that was a success, would he be saying the same thing? Would we have even had this movie? Probably not. So that's interesting, but...
Yeah, I find he's being a bit hypocritical there.
Yeah.
Like, no, seriously, because he's one of the writers. He did the story on this film, and there's specific plot points in there that are asking the audience to recollect back to previous movies.
That's right.
Specifically, the Statue of Liberty is mentioned in here, and Wolverine or Logan says, that was a long time ago, Charles. There was the adamantium bullet, which goes back to X-Men Origins Wolverine. There's the I saved you from a life of cage fighting when Professor X is going on to Logan. So you can't ask your audience to recall back to previous movies by name dropping things specifically in your film, and then come out and say, look, continuity doesn't matter. If don't acknowledge it, then just don't say anything.
Well, I think he's just trying to tie back like little Easter eggs, but like they don't have to necessarily make 100% sense. Like, he says like that happened a long time ago. Fans that saw the first one are like, oh, I remember that in X-Men 1. It's just like a nice like throwaway line that doesn't really mean anything. Like, it's just like there so that you can recollect back to.
But we live in a post-Avengers world. We live in a post-MCU world where the continuity means something. People are always looking for Easter eggs. Go on YouTube. There's hundreds of YouTube channels picking out Easter eggs. And I can accept the fact that maybe these events happened in the new timeline in slightly different order or mannerisms or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So that doesn't mean that the events of Statue of Liberty didn't happen. But I just find it extremely, like I said, hypocritical that you say something like that. Continuity doesn't matter. But then you're focusing so, not heavily, but some of the story refers back to previous things. Like, that's asking the audience to remember those movies, to have seen those movies. And you know what? It doesn't matter for the plot at the end of the day. Like, I think that the continuity that they try to adhere to in here, like, even if they didn't do any of this, it's not going to change the movie for what it is. It's just, I find that in the world we live in the film, as far as comic book genre, there is a little bit of responsibility to, if you're not going to adhere to continuity, to just leave it alone then. Just allow it to sit on its own. And they kind of did that here, but they kind of didn't. And that's a little bit what bothers me about the whole timeline perspective. There's like, I know the X-Men universe is messed up to begin with.
Yeah.
And I just don't see why each individual writer can't see that and just be like, I'm not going to even step on this. I'm going to not acknowledge anything.
Mm-hmm. Like that's why, like, what they did with Deadpool. Deadpool did it the best way. I kind of find I find it funny though how a lot of these studios just kind of pick out Marvel. Like, I don't get it. Like, Marvel never calls out Fox. Marvel never calls out DC. But we've had Suicide Squad's director Ayer calling out Marvel, and we've had now Fox calling out Marvel. So clearly Marvel's doing something right. That's
people call out other, like Downey Jr.'s called out DC and stuff before. So it goes around. True. It's just a friendly rivalry.
It's a fun poke.
But I think, like, with continuity, it's there, but like, think about this. So you have X-Men, The Last Stand, we all agree kind of a subpar film, average at best. X-Men 3, and they had the Juggernaut, who's like one of my favorite X-Men villains. And they did him so poorly.
Horrible.
It was such an awful display of what the Juggernaut really is. Like,
I'm Juggernaut, bitch.
Oh, but why would he say
Australian,
that?
I think.
Yeah. And so my thing is, like, if they keep a continuity, so you do a new X-Men movie and Juggernaut's the villain, if you keep him a continuity, you're going to have to include that horrible version of Juggernaut. Whereas if you don't keep a continuity, you don't have to explain. Just be like, here's this super sweet Juggernaut that we're giving you that's more comic accurate.
Yeah.
So sometimes continuity can be an anchor.
I think it works better in the comic books, like what DC's doing in the comic books. It's creativity over continuity, and that works really well, especially going into Rebirth. Whereas movie franchises, it's a franchise, so I think you should have that connecting tissue between each film. That's just me, though.
And you know what? For this movie, I don't want to linger on this anymore. I know it's a particular sticking point for myself, and I'm quite passionate about it. And I've expressed that numerous times on here on the podcast. So we're going to move past this. And I'm going to say explicitly that I think this sits in the new time stream. Okay. And this whole 25-year without a mutant thing, I think you can just excuse that and say, whatever. Like, I really don't know how to get around it. And I'm not going to let that kind of pull down this conversation or the movie.
So my theory about where this film takes place is actually, I think it takes place in the old timeline. So Days of Future Past, this takes place before they go back in time and fix everything. So maybe like this is like that horrible future that they're all predicting in Days of Future Past, and this is what comes to be. And then when Logan comes back in time to like the 70s, then like because he went back in time and changed something, then this Logan film won't happen in the new timeline.
So Sentinels already came and took out a lot of the X-Men?
I'm thinking Sentinels came, took out all the X-Men, and then, they escaped. Charles and Wolverine are the only two that escaped because you don't see any other X-Men in there.
But I thought...
It heavily implied that Charles killed
the X-Men, yeah.
Implied that he killed 7 mutants. We don't know which 7.
Well, I say it's explicitly in Westchester.
It's a big town.
Anyways,
that's continuity, aside, that is one like thing that it does, we do always want to see like how these films fit together.
Of course, yeah.
And so for me, that was one thing too that I was like, this doesn't, if you include continuity, it's not a very good film in terms of building on a cinematic universe.
Right.
No. But let's move on past this. Let's just accept it is what it is. Like every time we discuss these movies, we accept it is what it is. Let's get into the bulk of this movie here. So we're introduced here to Logan, to James Howlett. He's aging. He's losing his powers. The adamantium is poisoning him. I really like that aspect, how they work that into the script of the character. I think that's a cool way for him to be losing his powers. It's not just some natural thing
genius.
or something else happening. It makes sense. He's had that in him since the 1800s. For a long time to have a metal fused to your bones. He's working
Didn't he have that in like the 70s?
60s,
in, with 3 Mile Island.
Right,
yeah,
because
you're
the
right.
Weapon X project.
Yeah. So you're
with
right.
the
So
Deadpool.
it's erased. No continuity to it. But he has been spending his time working as a chauffeur, and he's doing this to essentially make some money to buy pills for Professor X, who he is taking care of on the Mexican side of the border. So mutants have become somewhat fugitives in the States, it seems, particularly Charles Xavier. He's been deemed a weapon of mass destruction, his brain, because of what happened in Westchester. It's something along the lines of 400 to 600 people were injured because he is now having these seizures. So he's losing control of his powers. He's got some sort of brain disorder that isn't allowing, like whether it's Alzheimer's or something like that. It's not really explicitly said, but he has lost control of his powers. And that kind of sets the frame for Logan here. But when we're looking at him, I made this prediction last week that for half the film, we're going to see Logan as this pacifist. He was going to have pulled away his claws, refused to fight because of some sort of emotional trauma, maybe related to the death of the majority of the X-Men.
Yeah.
That turned out to be a very wrong prediction, my friends.
That's all right, Tim. We'll forgive you.
As soon as we see Wolverine here, he gets out and beats the crap out of 4 or 5 gang members that are trying to jack his rims.
Yeah, you don't mess with Wolverine.
No, and we're thrown right into the deep end of the R rating here. Not only with the violence, but with the swearing. That kind of stuck out to me a bit. It felt slightly out of place from time to time. Like I've said before, I do like the odd F-bomb in a film, but to me this was right in my face. This was a lot of F-bombs from Hugh Jackman. He was a very angry man.
Well, do you blame him? Someone's trying to steal your rims, maybe he's hungover.
And he's tired, he's old now.
Yeah. He's crotchety. He's like, damn kids, get off my lawn.
Yeah. A little bit of Clint Eastwood going on there, right?
Yeah.
That old man syndrome. But I felt there's a lot of F-bombs, kind of a little too much. I feel like they kind of abused the R-rated rating a little bit with some of the gore and some of the language for the most part. Yeah.
See, I'm the opposite. Like, bring it on. Like, bring on the F-bombs. You don't get them in DC. You don't get them in MCU, so you gotta get them somewhere. And you know what? Like, I feel like that's how Wolverine would really talk if he was, like, living in the world. Like, he wouldn't be like, hey, bub, like, get out of here. An Australian accent for some reason.
He was Australian in the Spider-Man Super Friends cartoon. So, yeah.
I love that you know that.
Yeah, I do. Saw that episode.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
See, I feel like he would be dropping F-bombs and he would be clawing people to death. Like, he wouldn't be like what was it, X-Men 1? I don't think he killed anyone because they couldn't show him clawing people. It was always like, in the animated series, it's always robots.
Yeah,
but he hit Berserker mode in X1 or 2, didn't he? When he jumped
a couple of times.
X2,
Even in Apocalypse, you saw him in Berserker.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, Days of Future Past. So they have shown him in Berserker mode, but not quite like this. This was very violent. I personally didn't have I'm not someone that enjoys gore or extreme violence like that, but I didn't mind this. I felt that it was appropriate for the character, and they took the right liberties, and they went with it, and they committed to it. And I think that, in X-Men Apocalypse, we did see them go to almost the brink there. You saw the blood splatter in that.
Yeah.
But you didn't see quite the claws going through the head, through the arm. Like, I think it was appropriate here. The language kind of pulled me out a bit. Like, it's not that I'm offended by swearing or that. Like, I'm a big fan of that. But I felt that because of the character we've seen 8 times before this, we didn't get him saying that. Like, he seemed to, and maybe you can attribute this a bit to, like, the nature of who he is now. Like, he's this old, beat-down man.
Right.
Yeah.
But I just felt like that pulled me out a bit. Like, I liked it sometimes. I liked it more from Professor X, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah.
His lines were better. How he kind of changed from this, upstanding Westchester kind of bow-tied up type
gentleman.
guy, gentleman, into this gruff old, like, slouched down in a wheelchair, swearing and giving crap to the albino guy that he keeps leaving him with. I thought that was good.
That was hilarious.
The liberties they
that's
took
great.
with that character, I think, benefited it over top of Logan. But the violence in this first sight, I liked it. Like, I think this set the tone for the movie, and they maintained that tone through the entirety of it. And I don't think they shied away, and they used that R rating, I think, for the violence appropriately. Like, they wanted to make a film that showed this type of violence, and I think they did.
Yeah, can't argue that.
No.
Like how you're like, no, you can't.
No, you can't. Yes, I can. Another character that were introduced here early on is the albino mutant that is living with him, known as Caliban. Now, we have seen this character before in the X franchise. He was in X-Men Apocalypse.
Yep.
He was the mutant that was collecting and doing some of that trade with Mystique.
Psylocke there.
Psylocke was there
right.
with their. This is a different actor. This is Steve Merchant.
Ricky Gervais show. He's more of a comedian.
Yeah, he's fantastic. I love him in this role. I think the character itself is heavily misused in this movie, but he is another welcomed addition to this cast, I think, particularly in these early scenes and his interaction with Professor X and Logan. I felt that they lacked a true backstory for this character, and maybe we really didn't need it, but I just felt that I didn't understand the connection between Logan and Caliban. I didn't really get why he was there over top of a Beast. Troy and I, we talked about this last week about why isn't it Beast there?
Yeah,
that to me would have made a bit more sense. If you didn't want to go down the path of doing the blue makeup or having someone back or whatever, you could have just said that his X gene is dying too, and he can't turn blue anymore. He isn't blue anymore.
Yeah. Especially they've been trying to stop the blue syndrome basically in the last two movies, so why not go that route? Yeah.
I think they used Caliban because, like, he helped the government, I think it was, that was, like, hunting down these mutants and killing them. So, it would make sense that he'd be one of the last mutants left because he already hunted down the remaining ones. And so maybe he's trying to atone for his sins because, he didn't want to help them. He was kind of forced into helping them later on in the movie.
Yeah. But going back to Beast, he's always had a great relationship with the government himself, too, right?
Yeah, that's true. Films. But maybe they killed him. Maybe, Frasier wasn't available.
Yeah,
maybe.
It's true. And
he's like, filming Frasier, too.
Yeah. And I felt that Caliban could have been on the other side anyways. Like, they made mention to him, the Reavers, that you helped us before hunt down the mutants, let's do it again type thing. And I agree, maybe he's trying to repent his sins before he eventually dies. But I just thought that they could have leveraged another X character in there, someone that we were familiar with, that may have made that relationship between the two of them a bit more emotional, and that connection, because we've seen it's been really established in the new timeline with Apocalypse, Days of Future Past, and X-Men First Class that Beast and Professor X have this really tight relationship.
Yes.
To the point where he stays back and is the one injecting him in Days of Future Past, I think it is.
Yeah. So that would have been great to see. Yeah, because I feel like we're kind of missing some X-Men, even though I know it's a standalone Logan film. Yeah. How great would it be to be in this universe, seeing some near death mutants, X-Men?
Yeah. But maybe like you said, like Professor X killed the rest of the X-Men, and maybe they really wanted to focus on the relationship between Logan and Professor X, and they didn't want any other X-Men probably like clouding it, because then we would have had some emotional connection between Beast and Professor X, whereas this one, like Caliban and Professor X, I guess there's like a little bit of relationship, but like he's just there for like comedy, and he's like a plot device. Like they use him so that he can hunt down Logan and Prof X.
He's nothing more than that, I don't think. Like he's just literally, like you said, a plot device. Someone that can hunt down the Logan and Professor X in particular when they do take off.
He kind of looks like the zombie from Dawn of the Dead, like the original George A. Romero version. If you ever see that, like the Hare Krishna zombie with like the blue makeup. I don't know. I watch a lot of horror films, so horror fans, you'll get the reference.
Yeah. Professor X here. This is a character that we have mentioned just a few minutes ago, but let's quickly discuss this character, in particular Patrick Stewart's turn as Professor X here. I think that beyond Hugh Jackman, he is the shining light as far as character portrayal in this movie. I was just enthralled with his acting here. I was engaged the entire time he was on the screen. I felt that he gave Logan this emotional focal point. And the eventuality of the reveal that he is the one responsible for killing that, like, I felt that they wrote this character so well, and I can see why Patrick Stewart was happy with how this character turned out towards the end of this film. What are you guys' thoughts on Patrick Stewart playing Professor X here? Is this his best turn as Professor X?
Yeah, he knocked it out of the park. He was actually in my opinion, the best thing of this movie. I think he kind of stole the show from the scenes that he had from Logan, from Hugh Jackman. He was incredible. James McAvoy has some big shoes to fill now going forward in these X-Men films, because Patrick Stewart laid it down. People are talking Oscar buzz, but I don't think they're talking enough about his performance for supporting actor. He's great.
I would support that.
Yeah.
Get it? Support that.
Ah.
I agree. Professor X, not James Stewart.
Patrick Stewart.
Patrick Stewart. Why did I say James?
James McAvoy probably says
Oh
so,
yeah. You infused me. No, he incepted me. No, I think he laid it down. He did a great job. He was comedic, but he was also touching. Like some of the scenes, you kind of felt for him because you saw him, as you said, like this outstanding guy, like this like Westchester guy with like the bow ties. And you saw him like beaten and like down, and like this guy who lost his mind. Like he was the mutant with the world's greatest mind. Not even the mutant, like the world's greatest mind right there. It was almost like kind of like Stephen Hawking in a way, like this like tragic story of this man who is so brilliant, but like he's losing his mind. Not that Stephen Hawking's losing his mind, but like he's confined to a wheelchair. It just felt like kind of like some parallels between the two.
He's always been in a wheelchair.
And we've had so much time with this character, right? Again, going back to First Class, like we've seen from James McAvoy's portrayal going all the way up to this film, we've seen all these layers more so than Logan. Because a lot of times we've seen Logan kind of rehash the same brooding kind of beast.
Yeah.
Whereas here we've seen all the layers, all the growth of James McAvoy / Patrick Stewart.
The ups and downs.
Exactly.
It's fantastically done in Days of Future Past. Like that's a character or a portrayal of Professor X that we've never seen before. He was always, like we said, this gentleman, this guy that was put together.
Right.
But I think one of the things that Patrick Stewart does really well for me here is he plays that man with dementia really well, but also the lucid moments he has in this film are so touching. When we're with the family on that farm, when they're sitting around having the dinner, or he's sitting in bed and they're talking about the comic books and that, and he's kind of playing with X-23, and then when he does have that last final speech, like those lucid moments are some of my favorite moments in this movie. It's so engaging and he does it so well, and I just felt myself sitting there like, wow, like this is awesome.
I agree, and so I think Professor X, and you see kind of like his dark side in Days of Future Past. Like this character isn't just like a goody two shoes who's always up to, always up for the good. He does some things that are kind of shady and
questionable.
Yeah.
For the greater good, I think that's always his justification here. But by, we're 10, 12, 15 minutes into this movie, and I think they've done a good job setting or framing what we have here, particularly when it's focused in on the characters. And like James Mangold said, he's focusing in on a character movie and moving away from the spectacle. So we've seen a fight scene with Logan, we know Caliban, we know Professor X, and we know the gist of the universe at this point, that there's no mutants left, that they're running away, they're fugitives, they're over top of the border here. And this is really, I think, well done. It's tight, and we get what's going on at this point. And this is where we get kind of this reluctant hero journey beginning, when we do have Logan, who is this chauffeur, being contacted by Gabriella. So this is a woman, a nurse from the Transigen facility in Mexico that is carrying out the experimentation of what we eventually learn is the cloning, the X-23 project. And she is asking Logan to transport her and a young girl named Laura to Eden, as they call it. After reluctantly accepting this job, so he needs the money to pay for the meds to eventually go out and live his life with Professor X on a boat away from everyone. So this is kind of the dream, this aspiration that he's getting towards. And so his original motivation is to, again, coming back to the relationship with Professor X, is to remove him from the world itself, from harming anyone, and end their lives more or less together. He's got the adamantium bullet, he's got the medication, Professor X. They can live the rest of their lives out in peace and die and disappear forever. But before he is able to complete this mission, he is kind of approached by Donald Pierce, who is one of the main antagonists in this film. He's part of the Reavers, and these guys are genetically enhanced, or cybernetically enhanced, not genetically enhanced. This is directly out of the comic books to some degree. What did you guys think of the Reavers?
Yeah, no, I liked him. With the cybernetic arm, it was kind of cool. Kind of reminded me a little bit of Terminator. It wasn't the first time this movie reminded me of Terminator.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought they served their purpose. They were intimidating enough, and the guy seemed like he was a threatening enough villain for me, so I bought it, and yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have much to say. I think they pulled off the look pretty cool. Kind of reminded me of actually some Metal Gear stuff. I mentioned a couple episodes, or a lot of episodes ago, with this storyline here. But nothing crazy. not as bad as the Suicide Squad villains, those putties. Enough said there.
Whoa. You mean the Oscar-winning Suicide Squad?
Yeah, the makeup on those putties was awesome.
Putty Patrol.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't hear you. Got my Oscar stuck in the ear. I'm just concerned of how Wolverine got over Trump's wall. This takes place in the future, so there must have been a wall between Mexico and the United States. Am I wrong?
Just through that border. Actually, that's kind of alluded to a bit.
Yeah.
In this film, there's one or two drop lines here that are referring to people coming back and forth across the border there.
I think there's no mistake or no accident that they're trying to escape the United States and go into Canada.
Or Mexico, as they're living in.
Yeah, I think for sure there's definitely some anti-Trump messages in this film.
Definitely. Personally, I really like the Reavers. I liked this character, Donald Pierce. I think he could have served as the main and the only villain in this film. I think that although he wasn't someone that could maybe go toe-to-toe with Logan when he is berserking out, I felt that he was smart enough and had enough of this Ken Fodder type army that allowed them to just throw at Wolverine. I don't think we needed a big bad here for Wolverine to go toe-to-toe with. I think what they did with these Reavers and the fact that they were enhanced was pretty cool because that gave them a little bit more edge on top of the military that they brought into this that were just getting slaughtered at one point.
Yeah.
And this is where we get X-23 doing her thing. She's appears to be a mute, which is a character trait that I really liked that they did with X-23 here. And Professor X had been kind of going on and on about this woman that is very much like Logan, and she's coming, she's at the Statue of Liberty. So there's all these kind of neat references that you see Professor X linking with Laura, something that he hasn't done in a long time because he's in that kind of dampening cell, that anti-cerebro that Logan's put him in. And I like that kind of connection where we're seeing, again, these moments of Professor X being lucid and reconnecting with a mutant population and saying, look, we have to go find her. Where's Laura? When she eventually does show up, we start to get the reveal of who she actually is. And wow, this first fight scene, which turns into a car chase scene, and her slicing and dicing here, we see the toe claws, we see the two hand claws, we see how vicious she is. And this is something that we discussed almost ad nauseum about a 11-year-old, 12-year-old girl, whatever she is, just going out and slaughtering people. This didn't bother me. I felt that it was handled really well. It looked good because I was worried about even the stunts.
Yeah.
Is it going to look fake? Is it going to look like they jammed in a shorter stunt woman that didn't really fit? It didn't I was worried about that it was going to look fake, or they're going to take a lot of different camera angles when she's fighting, a lot of close-ups of her screaming. But they didn't shy away from showing her and Logan just decimating this crew of Reavers and what looks to be Mexican military. Were you guys okay with how they portrayed Laura Kinney here, X-23?
Yeah, I know nothing about the character, so for me this was a brand new character, so I was yeah, I bought it. Kind of reminded me a little bit of Stranger Things with Eleven. Yeah. It seems to be that's the new trend is 13-year-old girls just whooping ass.
A hit girl.
Yeah, hit girl. Yeah. It didn't bother me at all.
Yeah. Same. It worked for me. I still could have gone for just a bit more of an older X-23. Not necessarily because this actress did a poor job or anything. I just think it's more fitting when it's that 15, 16-year-old character side by side with Logan, much like we had with Rogue, much like we've had with Jubilee, and so on in the comics and TV. But it worked. Yeah.
Maybe they casted or had a casting call. Maybe older people applied or tried out. But maybe because this actress I think killed it. What's her name? Daphne Keane.
Yeah,
she absolutely killed it in this film. Yeah, she's really good. So maybe originally they had planned for maybe to be a little bit older, but she's just no, I'm 17, and then she tried out and she killed it. No, whatever, you're cast. I mean I have no idea.
Yeah.
My contacts in Hollywood aren't getting back to me, so I don't know.
It's interesting with this character and her being a young girl, and we talked a little bit last week about kind of what you just mentioned there, Troy, that Wolverine's always paired with a younger female.
Yeah.
And one thing that I kind of lacked in this film was I didn't really feel like they ever connected.
Yeah.
Wolverine was very harsh towards her, and I never felt that he had this moment, this emotional connection to X-23. He always kind of kept her at arm's length, and I don't know if that is on purpose with the character never wanting to attach himself to something. But even when we get towards his eventuality of death, I never felt like he fully cared about X-23. He cared about doing the right thing and getting whatever sort of revenge because they cloned and because it was children and that. But I never felt like he was doing this because of the love of, I'm going to say in air quotes, I never was a big fan of them calling her his daughter either.
Yeah, daddy and daughter.
That was weird.
Yeah, and it never really worked for me.
I cried when she was like, "Daddy."
Yeah, a lot of people
I
did.
burst into tears.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot.
Hook, line,
I heard
sinker.
that a lot.
I like me and my buddy. Like I went to see it with my buddy Mike, and we both turned. We both had like tears in our eyes. We're just like, "Damn, feels like that crushed me."
I didn't have enough of an emotional attachment between the two. Like I never felt like she even wanted to call him dad. Like I didn't think she grasped that concept at all. Like I don't think throughout the whole movie they alluded to that at all. You know, even with the comic books, like that whole play with the X-Men comic books in there, that these are the stories that, you know, none of them are real, but this is how she understood about Eden and the X-Men and who they were and who Wolverine was. But I never felt like they leveraged that enough, that she wasn't trying to emulate him. Like she never saw him as a role model or a hero the way that he was portrayed in those comic books. And I felt like that was a bit of a missed opportunity, that like she had been reading these for however long. This is her only reference to the outside world.
Right.
Yeah.
And she never even looks up at him in this kind of adoring manner. And I thought that was a bit weird. And that's why those scenes didn't really connect with me. I just never felt that they had any weight behind them.
Yeah, I kind of felt more so X-23 reaching towards Logan, and I felt Logan just distancing himself even more so. So again, I just didn't get that connection between the two. They both executed the roles very well, but just the chemistry or however the director had them, they just never were on the same page, in my opinion.
No.
Again, and we have reference going back to him and Rogue in the first X-Men, and you could see that build up between the two and him kind of becoming that big brother, father figure for Rogue. But in this film, I never got that.
We seem to let Rogan, like, given that they did have a few films to develop that relationship, but he seemed by the end of X1, he seemed to open up a bit to her.
Yeah.
Because he comes off as this cage-fighting brute, and then eventually he's, you know, saving her and part of the X-Men.
Yeah.
You don't see that same progression of character in this. Like, he is more or less the same person when he starts this film as when it ends.
Yes.
Even though he has lost Professor X, and he has this little girl that I never felt that he fully connected to. So like, there's no evolution of character through that. Like he's, like I said, the same guy from point A to point B.
But like, you know, at the beginning of the film, you know, when X-23 got taken, he probably would have just like left her. But you know, he goes to the forest and he tries to save her at the end, and he kind of realizes at the end, what's his last line, like, so this is what it feels like, but referencing like the family moment, like of them, you know, he's like, this is what it feels like to be like a family.
But I didn't get that either, because that didn't make sense to me, because he had the X-Men
Exactly, plenty of times.
He loved Jean Grey. He knew what love was, and in X-Men Origins, depending on what you hold into the continuity, he had his wife at one point. He had that girl in Japan at one point. So he's had a family. Like he has Charles. He calls him his father in this film,
but he doesn't have any children, and he's maybe that's what he's referencing. Like, this is what it's like to have children. And he finally realizes, you know, and like Jean Grey never loved him back. She was in love with Cyclops. I think the girl in Japan and Wolverine's Miracle,
and she used him as set up the whole time. But he did have that feeling, like he's had those feelings before.
Yeah, I don't think this movie deserved that type of line because I don't think they built it up.
No,
and at one point of me, like when he first said it, my first thought was, okay, his family thing doesn't make any sense. Does he mean this is what it feels like to die?
Okay.
This is what it feels like to feel pain and finally see that light and go towards it.
Right.
I've never had this. I've been shot. I've been killed. I've been maimed. I've had every piece of me cut and chopped into pieces, every bone broken.
Right.
I've had adamantium bullet to my skull twice. Is this what it feels like to die?
Yeah.
That's kind of how I took that line, because I didn't just believe that it was about family, it was about love, because he's had that his whole, like, through the whole franchise.
But he's never had children, and maybe, you know, this is him experiencing what it's like to be a dad, because he's never been a dad before. That's fine. I just don't buy that. That's what it, like. They didn't earn that for me. That he was a father figure towards her. He was more of a savior. He was doing the right thing, the greater good thing. He was never just being a father to her. He was saving her because that's what was right at the time. It had nothing to do with the fact, I don't think at least, that he or she was a clone. Because he always ignored that when Patrick Stewart kept saying, like, she's your daughter, she's very much like you, and all this. And he is shocked when he sees the claws come out of her, and he doesn't want her to become like him. Right. I think that's more what it's about. When he's focusing in on her, is like, I don't want you to live the same life that I did.
this aggressive, this always fighting, this maiming, this killing, this berserker mode type thing. He doesn't want that. And that's a theme that Chris aptly pointed out last week when we discussed Logan with his relationship with the younger females in the comics, is that he always wants them to not be like him. He doesn't want anyone to be Wolverine.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, he wants them to be them and live a life of no regret, of not having to take a life. And that's something that's touched a bit on here, but not as much as I think that line actually hits home for me. That's my personal opinion on that. I just don't think it was deserved.
Fair enough.
But moving on a little bit with the plot here. So we get a little bit of exposition in that kind of iPhone film thing about what the X-23 project is. And this involves more than just a single individual, and more than in the comic books that it's just a female clone of Wolverine that is called X-23. It's the 23rd iteration, the 23rd attempt to make a direct clone of Wolverine that does turn out to have to be female because of the damaged Y chromosome. So they've taken a little bit of liberties with that storyline, and that's okay. I would have preferred her to be a bit more of an individual, someone that's special, that is the only clone of Wolverine. And that's why moving into this next phase of the movie, I'm a bit bothered, because there is this reference to the X-24 project. And the reason these kids are on the run is because once they perfected the X-24, they never had any need for the X-23 children. And they're rounding up and killing them. And the nurses took it upon themselves, who some of these nurses were actually the birth mothers, to release these kids and take them to this Eden place. And this is where we do find out about that there's more kids. We do get a little bit more of that backstory of X-23. Once we get a little bit of this exposition, we have a bit better understanding of what's going on with X-23, with this X-24, this transigen, what they were doing. We kind of swing and shift the tone a bit. They do find themselves at a casino in Oklahoma City. And this is, I think, one of the better fight scenes / revealing moments when we do have Logan leaving X-23 and Professor X, and then he comes back to Professor X having one of his seizures. Because Professor X, I think it's kind of neat throughout this whole film, he's kind of acting like an old man not taking his medication. Just shoving it down the seat like a little kid. Because he doesn't want to be heavily medicated.
Yeah.
And this whole scene when everyone's frozen in the casino and you see Wolverine slow-mo going through this to get to Charles, you know, sticking his claws into the walls, and then once he gets to the Reavers and you see them slowly moving towards him, and man, some of the, like, you feel the impact. Like that one through the guy's head, that is straight out of Old Man Logan, that exact scene. It's
incredible.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's really well done, yeah.
Probably some of the best scenes we've ever seen in any X-Men film.
Oh, for sure. I think, like, the best fights up there,
Yeah.
Most brutal, anyways.
Yeah, and I think, again, referring to the violence, like, it was appropriate in the moment. Like, it didn't bother me the same way I thought it was going to. And there's some nice moments in there with X-23 and them trying to give the suppressant to Professor X. And it's cool to see that both of them are somewhat more resistant to Professor X's this whatever he's doing, freezing, or the seizure that he's having, right?
Yeah.
Because of their ability to heal. And I kind of like that. They've played on that from the comic books, that he is able to kind of resist that somewhat. And like, it was a great scene. I thought the whole execution of the seizing into the fight, like, I think it was really, really well done. So, but they do end up going and driving towards North Dakota, and we get this kind of, I kind of liked it, actually, this farm scene. Yeah. It's a throwback a bit towards the westerns that they're trying to play off of a bit. And this are some of my favorite scenes. This whole family dynamic that we do get from this is, I like that they played on that a little more here. And this is a really nice light moment in what is a darker, grittier, and very violent film. The end of it is not so great. But like I said, we get some of those lucid moments with Professor X. We do have Wolverine going out and helping this man because they did help him. So I like the whole dynamic that we get with the family. We get X-23 interacting with a young boy, picking up the iPod, and this. I think there's a lot of good character development in here, and it's a nice pause from what's been a fairly intense movie so far. I know you made reference to the Hawkeye scene, the Hawkeye farm scene in Age of Ultron.
Yeah. This scene, I get what you're saying with the character development, and I totally get that and appreciate it, but it's literally copied and pasted from X-Men Origins when Wolverine visits the old man and the old woman in their home. It's the exact same scene. We get like Tim and I were mentioning before, the Hawkeye scene from Avengers: Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
So I get what they're doing. They're trying to slow down the pace and develop the characters like X-23 and see them actually interact with other human beings. But on the negative side too, we're also introduced to the clone.
Oh man.
Really? Okay,
Yeah,
we're gonna have some discussion about this. You guys didn't dig the clone.
No, I feel the clone was a horrible choice to go down. I feel like out of all these enemies, we could have had like a cool Omega Red, which would have been really cool to see on the big screen for once. We could have even had Daken. Daken's actually Wolverine's son. They didn't even have to explain that, but it could have been cool to see Wolverine go up against another Wolverine, but in the costume. And again, the fanboys would have got the nod, and the general audience wouldn't care. They'd just be like, cool, Wolverine fighting Wolverine, which is what we got anyways. Yeah. But it would have just been a little bit more substance to the character or the fights in general. Or, again, you could bring back Sabretooth. But this original character that served no purpose for me, I just thought he's a big throwaway. Horrible.
See, I liked it because I didn't get the reveal. You know, when you find out Professor X gets stabbed by the clone, you're like, okay, is this person, like, for a while I was like, is this
a dream?
Yeah, like, is this Wolverine or like what's going on?
Right.
But kind of reminded me a little bit of Terminator Genesis.
Yeah,
the opening scene where Arnold Schwarzenegger fights his younger self.
Yes.
A really well done scene, whether you like the movie or not. That's one of the best scenes of that film.
I agree.
The CGI was killer, and I think, you know, this looked kind of cool. It was kind of like, I think, you know, the director tried to say, like, it's like, you know, at the ending scene when he fights his clone again, it's just like, you know, the old versus the young, and I think this is what this film was trying to say, is like, you know, the old winter lion facing the young buck, and it was cool to see those two interact and go at it toe to toe.
You could still put in Daken again. Could have done the same.
You know,
same
I
thing.
didn't even know he existed until right now. So
Okay.
I'm glad. You know, if they brought him in, I would have been like, sweet. That
and we
would
would
have
have got
been
the
pretty
costume.
cool. Yeah, I thought they were going to bring out the costume to
Yeah.
differentiate Wolverine and the other one, especially at the end fight.
Yes,
I
That
thought
would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
You know, like have the kids, like have him playing around with the kids and wearing the costume after they cut his hair like Wolverine. And then, you know, him showing the kids, like, okay, like, this is what it looks like. I really
it would
wish...
work his armor, too, because he's weaker at this point.
Yeah. They really should have put on the yellow spandex.
And they teased it in the special edition version, too, of the
Yeah.
Wolverine, right? That costume. So
Yeah, as Cyclops says in X-Men 1, what would you like, yellow spandex?
yes. They've been teasing us all along.
Yeah, it's just the black leather. Only Apocalypse in the X-Men franchise is really, I guess, First Class gave us some colorful costumes.
I liked, what was her name in Deadpool? The teenager.
Negasonic Teenager.
I think she had the best X-Men
Yeah.
costume ever. It worked. Yeah, it's perfect.
For me, X-24 was a complete and utter disaster. Seriously, like,
Tell us how you really feel.
That's well, like I said, I've been trying to be very positive throughout the majority of this review. Like, I think this movie deserves the positivity.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about this reveal here, I think that the Reavers were an appropriate villain for this. We get the reveal later of this. Xander Rice,
Right.
as the head of transgender. Like, that's fine. That's all we needed, I think. Like, I don't think we needed a big shit kicking between Wolverine and a clone of Wolverine. Like, the thing that bothers me here is this eliminates the individuality of X-23, the importance of X-23. She's supposed to be one of a kind. Now we have something that's better and that looks like him. Like, I just thought that, you know, why is Transcendent chasing her? Like, what does it matter? Like, why do they need her? Like, I guess, sure, they want to kill her, but I felt this was just lazy.
Yeah.
Like, I felt that it pulled me right out of the film. Like, I remember sitting for it and shaking my head, being like, I cannot believe they're doing this. Like,
I wish I was there at the theater just to see Angry Tim just, like, throw his popcorn down and, like, fuck this movie.
like, well, it really bothered me. Like, I think it was poorly executed. Like, they could have done so many other things, and the fact that the clone is who kills Xavier,
Yeah.
come on. Like, this is not the demise of the man that we've been watching for 17 years, who has been through time travel and this and that and the other thing. Like, it should have been Logan that killed Xavier, in my opinion.
You think so?
I think so.
But he did kill him. His clone did.
Yeah, but like, it was just, he just put his hand on his and then shanked him. Like, to me, it's just, none of that again was earned. Like, that, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why we needed him to fight a clone. Like, sure, every movie needs him going toe to toe with someone that is maybe equal to him, but you didn't need that in this film because he didn't have an equal in this film. Like, he was old, beaten down, he was being poisoned. Like, his healing factor wasn't there. He was full of scars and damaged and limping through this whole movie. Like, they didn't need to throw him up against someone that's 25 years younger than him. Like, I just felt like this really took this off of the very straight and narrow, this gritty, down to earth movie that they had built. They had ignored this whole genetics thing to some degree, with the exception of X-23. They really didn't focus in on that. And then all of a sudden, he's fighting a clone of himself that kills. Like Professor X didn't get the send off I thought he was going to get. Like, he basically gets stabbed. Logan runs upstairs, throws him in the back of the truck, and then buries him in a rock pile.
Yeah.
Like, that's not the way he should have died. Like, I think there should have been more with him having a massive seizure and harming thousands of people, maybe, or people. Like, there need to be more emotion there. Like, we saw Wolverine kill Jean Grey in X3. Like, we know he has the capacity to do something like that. Someone that he loved and cared about.
Yeah.
This is even heavier. Like, imagine the emotional reaction from the audience if it's Logan that has to kill his mentor, his father figure.
Yeah.
They put so much effort into this film in demonstrating how much he cares and how he'll do almost anything for Charles. To have him be the one that kills him, like, to me, that is just boom. Like, that is the emotional stakes that I am looking for in this film.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was, lost on this clone, like, I was just so far out of it at this point that I was like, I don't know if I can get back into this movie now. Like, it really, truly bothered me that they went this path with this.
I don't think Logan could ever kill Professor X, so I think, like, that's what they're trying to say, is, like, with the boat and stuff, like, maybe he would have taken him out to sea, but, maybe he would have killed him, maybe he wouldn't. We'll never find out, but I just don't think he would have ever been capable of doing that.
Well, it's this greater good thing, right? Like, if Professor X was going to kill thousands of people, I think Wolverine has the ability to do that, has the capacity to do that. And even to have a moment where, Professor X is seizing and he has this brief glimmer of lucidity and looks at Wolverine and just kind of gives him, like, one of these things, like, it's my time to go.
And controls him. He could even control Wolverine.
Yeah,
make
it's
Wolverine
true,
do it.
yeah.
Right?
So I think there was a little bit
Yeah.
more there that they could have done that, even if they had this silly clone, if they had done something like that, I think I could have ignored that. But because this clone becomes a pivotal part of this movie, because he kills Professor X, I just can't. That's inexcusable for me.
But now he needs to get revenge on the clone. Like, it's like the Attack of the Clones. So before with the clone, like, he didn't really care, but now he's personally invested in killing this clone because the clone killed Charles. So now he's like, all right, well, you killed Charles, I'm going to take down my younger self.
Oh, yeah. It's like taking down Apollo Creed. You got to go train on that mountain.
Exactly, yeah.
But he has that motivation with X-23 already.
Yeah.
Right? Like, to save her because he's got her locked up in this big clamp thing. Like, that is his motivation to go and fight him in the first place. Like, yes, he's out there to get revenge, but if he didn't want to fight him or didn't want to save X-23, he would have thrown Charles in the truck and drove off.
Yeah.
So he does already have that built-in motivation to save X-23 here. I don't know, like, that's to me where the big letdown in the movie is. I think that, like, in X-Men movies, I feel that the third act or this final reveal is always something that they struggle with. They can't get past, like, they build this movie up so well for the first two parts of it, and then we get into the end here and we have this reveal that no one knew about, and I'm just sitting there shaking my head.
Yeah, because if you look back at all three Wolverine movies, we've had Silver Samurai as the villain, we've had a horrible Deadpool, and then we got a clone. Like, they've all been throwaways. I mean, the best thing we've probably had is maybe Sabretooth, and even that was still kind of poorly done. So and Wolverine has some decent villains.
Yeah, and this movie wasn't about a villain. This was about the Logan taking that final journey with Patrick Stewart, right? Like, we didn't need him to go toe-to-toe with people. I felt, and even going into this last fight scene, that all the fight scenes are perfect. Like, they're really well done, and they don't need someone that is on the same level as Logan to go toe-to-toe with him. Like, him going through and slashing through all these Reavers and through these like, whatever, the military and that. I think that gives you that idea, that craving for Berserker Wolverine. I don't need him to go toe-to-toe with a single person to satisfy my need to have a Wolverine fight. I don't know, like, that's I think the biggest misstep of the movie is the clone and the fallout from the clone. Because that pushes the story into a different direction, I think, than they were trying to get at originally.
Shoot, we'll never get an Omega Red film, eh?
No.
Damn.
You never know, maybe Deadpool too.
I like that.
Yeah.
Deadpoolier.
So we eventually make it to Eden here with Logan and X-23.
Or Neverland.
Yeah, Neverland. Lost Boys. That's exactly what I
Right,
thought too.
yeah.
These kids, it's kind of a weird.
But they never make it to Eden.
Or it wasn't Eden.
I thought it was Eden.
Eden was the
Eden's in
treehouse, wasn't it?
Canada.
Oh, maybe I don't know. I thought Eden was the treehouse.
I know because remember they said we're gonna meet in North Dakota, and then from there we're gonna go up to Canada.
Okay, well,
And I think Eden is in like Manitoba, which is really weird.
Oh, I thought that
So did I.
treehouse thing was Eden. Okay.
but
No,
anyways,
I don't think so.
Neverland.
Wait,
is exactly
we'll have
it.
to
Right.
get the coordinates. What were the coordinates on the comic book? We'll have to put them in our GPS or
And see
Google
if it
Maps
actually
and
is
see where
that.
it is. Yeah.
These kids, this what appears to be New Mutants or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little hits there.
It's kind of an interesting dynamic, and again, doesn't particularly fit into the movie. I don't think it. I like seeing some of the other powers. That's something that we really didn't get in this whole movie was the display of mutant powers. We get what appears to be Iceman and this character named Richter that has kind of the seismic activity.
Like Magneto or whatever, maybe was it?
I think it was like he had the ability
interesting.
to manipulate like seismic activity.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Isn't
And then we had like
that,
Poison Ivy with like
Banshee or something.
Oh, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then
My
we saw the vines take over. With
Yeah.
yeah.
This was an interesting scene, and them clipping out his beard to make
Yeah.
him look like Wolverine. I
Yeah.
felt that was just a play to the fans, like, this is the last time we're going to see Wolverine.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
might as well get his mutton chops in there.
Yeah.
Need the yellow costume though.
Yeah, we did need the yellow costume.
we
But
did.
this leads us into our eventual final fight. They are discovered by the Reavers. They're being chased through this forest. And what a scene for a fight. Like, this is really well done. The
Yeah.
camera work, the cinematography
Yes.
is beautifully done in
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
It captures this fight, the intensity of the fight. Logan gets all kind of jacked up on this juice or whatever, this serum,
Oh yeah.
which I didn't get. Like, they said don't drink all of it because I thought that was going to kill him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That he was going to be like, okay, well, I'm going to commit suicide here, but I'm going
Yeah.
to save everyone while
Exactly.
I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And chugs this thing, and he goes full berserker mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This looks fantastic. X-23's fight scenes in here, fantastic. Just the whole scene, like how they constructed this, I thought was really well done.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was great. I liked it. I didn't feel for the kids at all because they're just kind of thrown in there. Didn't really care for that. Again, the clone, I just didn't really care for him fighting Wolverine, him to be the one to take out Wolverine ultimately by impaling him through the tree stump there. But other than that, yeah, I agree with you. The choreography was fantastic. X-23 kills it in these scenes. I mean, I don't know how much of it is her doing these stunts, but either way, they pull it off. And it just
It's
looks
seamless.
phenomenal. Yeah.
I can't tell when it's not her, when it's her, when she's on wires, whatever.
Right.
It looks good. Like, I think all of her scenes, like, I
Yeah.
compliment the choreography, the fight choreography in this movie,
Yeah.
because it's all done really well. Like, I can't tell when they're using doubles,
Yeah.
when they're on wires, when it's CG, whenever. It looks really good.
Yeah.
No, I think it was a proper send off, like a big battle. They kind of built it up, and then you had like the kids versus the army, and I thought that was kind of cool, getting to see their powers. Sets up the next X-Men film, probably taking place in this universe. It'll be the children.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll go New Mutant. I mean, I know we're getting a New Mutants film. I don't think it's going to be particularly
No.
these New Mutants. That'd be a horrible idea. No, nothing against you or anything there. It's just
Oh no, that's fine, Troy. Tell me how you really feel.
I just feel like these kids don't really have. They felt like extras as
Yeah.
opposed to actual actors or characters. If they had a film around these kids, apart from X-23, they'd be in some danger.
The
Yeah.
only thing I can see them doing with these kids is taking X-23, and it's Cable that takes her to the different time stream.
And bring her
Brings
back.
her back to the 80s or whatever, and they
I
have
hope so.
X-Force, or to 2016 or whatever, and they have an X-Force movie with Deadpool.
Yeah, and then boom, you got the all new, all different X-Men.
Yeah.
Well, they did announce. Simon Kinberg said like the next film is
Nova, X-Men Nova.
X-Men Nova,
Supernova, yeah.
Supernova, but he just said Deadpool 2, and then I think X-Force will be Deadpool and Cable
Yeah.
leading it.
And in the comics, Cable, I think, gets X-23. I don't know how it works. He picks I don't know if it's X-23 specifically, but he goes and picks X-Men and mutants from different parts of the time stream
Oh, cool.
to build the X-Force.
Like
so,
Bishop is in there.
yeah,
is he?
Bishop's in there, and what the hell is I can't remember the other guy's name. Anyways, doesn't matter. But that's kind of how he constructs the X-Force. So you
Cool.
can see them pulling an X-23 into this time.
That would be
Just
awesome.
using time
That'd
travel.
make a lot
So
of
are they
sense.
like time traveling or what's going
Cable
on?
is.
Yeah, Cable and Bishop's a
what
time
is-
traveler too.
Yeah. Because he's you see him in
Days of
Days of Future Past
Yeah.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do the X-Force do? Are they like kind of like because it's supposed to be like an R-rated? I think.
Suicide Squad type
Nice.
thingish, aren't they?
Yeah, I'm not super familiar.
I haven't read a lot of it, but I
Yeah.
think they're more of like I don't know. I'm gonna say Suicide Squad is the closest parallel we're gonna have.
Oh, okay.
We kind of
Hopefully
have
they
these
win an Oscar as well.
anti-heroes.
But you said they're chasing an R rating as well, so that might be Fox's thing then, basically.
Yeah,
the R
I
rating.
think that's where
Deadpool
they have
2,
to
I
go.
think, will be
Yeah.
R-rated as well.
Oh, I'd have to.
Yeah.
Deadpool 2, yeah. It'd have to.
So as we close out this film here, we have Logan meeting the Xander Rice, who was hailed as the main villain. He's this Richard E. Grant. People thought maybe he was going to be Mr. Sinister.
Right.
He turns out to be this character directly from the Innocence Lost X-23 book. He is the creator of X-23 in the comic books. He, I think he's a waste, personally.
Yep.
Like, he came and just started to reveal random things. Like, oh, we killed all the mutants, and then we wanted to build our own mutant army, so we started cloning old mutants. Like, I felt like that was just like a brain dump.
Yeah.
That was just like, oh, we have to tie all these loose ends up, so we're going to have this guy. And then Logan just shoots him after he explicitly said at the start, I don't like guns.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much more they could have done with this character, I think, and used him as a main villain, because when we talked last week, there's a nice setup in Apocalypse with him running through the Weapon X program, and they make kind of reference to this about, you know, your father was the man that put this poison inside of me. I killed your father. And then Xander Rice is like, I wanted revenge on you or whatever. It's built up a lot more in the comic books, and it makes a lot more sense why Xander Rice, like, he has dedicated his life to science to get his ultimate revenge on Wolverine. And then he does create X-23, tortures her, all these type of things. So there's a lot more of a connection between Xander Rice and Wolverine in the comic books, and I was looking for a little more of that. Not just this guy that shows up at the end, gets shot in the head, but before that he brain dumps, you know, what he's done for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And it just seemed like a quick and easy way to wrap things up a bit, and they could have done more of a connection there and maybe strung that throughout the movie that would have made this climax a bit more engaging and kind of had a bit more stakes to it. I just felt like the fight was awesome, but it just kind of ended. Like, he goes toe-to-toe again with X-24, and again, I didn't really love that. Like, I didn't feel like this was the final battle that I needed.
No.
I think, personally, the way I would have liked him see it is him just go through this massive battle with all the Reavers. After drinking that serum, that's kind of what almost kills him, and he kind of dies. The way he did is fine, but he just kind of slowly and quietly dies. I didn't want to see him go out in this kind of fiery mess. Like, I liked that it was quiet. I liked that it was slow, and sure, X-23 can be over him. I didn't like the daddy thing. Yeah. But I just felt like all of that was, like, again, this third act thing, like, it was just rushed. Like, I felt like they were like, crap, we need to finish this movie off. Oh yeah, there's all these comic book reference things we need to get in. Yeah. So let's throw all those in real quick, and then Logan has to die, so this is how he dies. I just don't feel it was executed maybe in the manner the rest of the movie was. Like, the rest of the movie I felt really worked at developing characters, a plot line, an overarching theme, and a narrative. And I felt like this last 20-30 minutes was just really rushed. Yep. And it's kind of a sour note to somewhat end on here on what I think is a really good film. Like, don't get me wrong, this isn't a bad film. I just think that the ending, like most Wolverine movies, was the weakest part. And that's kind of the last thing you're left with in the theater, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this is something they're trying to do where they purposely go out of their way to make the third act have the worst part of the film. Because, again, going back to the Deadpool fight in Origins, that was pretty bad and pretty rushed. And then with the Silver Samurai, revealing the whole plot line of the whole movie. Again, we're getting that in this film too. So it didn't really serve the film that much justice. Maybe they spent too much time in other scenes as opposed to fleshing out the end here. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I like that he went out kind of violently fighting X-24. It's like you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Yeah. And I kind of felt like that. I really like the end. I don't know what you guys felt when X-23 takes the cross.
That was cool.
Turns it over to an X. I was like, okay, that's...
Yeah, I like that.
That gets you in the feels. Like,
that was a nice nod.
Yeah, and then it kind of just like pans her for a little second. You're just like, that's it. That's
waiting for the hand to come up. Yeah, or the rocks to move like Superman.
Or the Deadpool where he like opens his eyes or something. Yeah, Origins. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think Wolverine will be back. He's too popular of a character to leave out.
You think it'll be Hugh Jackman playing him though?
No, I think he's done. As you said, it's too many chicken breasts to eat.
They can use him in the 80s timeline. He's effectively around. Yeah. They will have to tweak a few things to get him back into that timeline or whatever, but they've been known to step all over continuity anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I think maybe what they'll do is maybe in the new one, the 90s, That's where Supernova's supposed to take place in the 90s.
Yes,
Yeah.
mid 90s, late 90s.
So who knows? Maybe Cable will bring X-23 back, and then they'll change the future so that way it doesn't end up like that. I mean, time travel, you get a whole bunch of loopholes. Like, I'm a big Terminator fan of the franchise, and they have so many loopholes and so many changing timelines that who knows, right? Like, I kind of think of each film as like its own separate film. Like, you know, as Logan said, you know, who knows if any of this stuff happened? Maybe it did, maybe it didn't, in referring to the comic books. Maybe a quarter of it happened, but it didn't happen like this. And maybe, you know, they're referring to the previous movies like that, similar too.
Fair enough. That's a good point.
Maybe like some of the previous movies are just like stories, or maybe they're just movies in the X universe about their exploits that, you know, may or may not have happened.
Right. So it's just like the Old Man Logan book itself is just out of continuity.
Well, that's what Hugh Jackman originally said. He said this film has no ties to previous continuity.
Right. Which would be like the Old Man Logan book.
Yeah, and then I think James Mangold said, no, it takes place in 2029, and there are some ties in there. So who knows? Like, if you know, I think it's best to go into this film and just think of it as its own solo, separate film.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you there, because some of that weighs in on me.
Yeah,
I can't ignore that, but as the general population, I think people are going to like this film.
Yeah.
Question for you guys: did you stick around for a post-credit scene?
I did. And there's nothing.
Yeah. No.
Do you think that? Well, we heard the quote from James Mangold that he wasn't going to do something like this. I thought it was more of a stamp saying, "No, that's the end of Wolverine. That's the end of this timeline right now."
Yeah.
You're not getting anything teased here. We had the teaser at the start.
Yeah.
And I think that's appropriate. Whether it was more of a creativity choice to set himself out or separate himself from what they're doing over at the MCU and that, or if it was just a creative decision to say, look, this is the end of Wolverine. There's going to be nothing else shown here. So I was a bit thrown off because they've done that forever. Like the X-Men have also done this too.
Yeah.
This end credit sequence or post credit sequence. But I'm okay with it. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, once you killed off Wolverine, what could you really possibly put at the end of the film, right?
You could have done something with X-23.
I guess,
she gets there and like, I don't know, something.
The only thing I could see is just having them show the grave for a little bit longer and maybe have some rocks, askew or something.
So you really have to look at it.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think they shouldn't have, and they didn't. So I'm glad.
All right, guys. That about wraps up our discussion here for Logan. Let me get your final closing thoughts on this. Keep them brief.
All right, I'll go first. So when we go about this, let's see where you guys put this in the pantheon of comic book films, okay? So I'm going to slot this in at number 2, just behind The Dark Knight. So that just shows you how much love of all time, Beyonce had one of the best albums.
Wish you could see my face here, guys.
Wait. Let me take a picture. Taking a picture on a live podcast. Boom. So that will go up. Yeah, number 2, all time. I have it just behind the Dark Knight trilogy. I'm counting that as one solo film because I just can't help it. I can't separate them. They're like my 3 children. I only have 1 children, but whatever. This film was great. I loved everything about this film. The director actually said he's making a black and white version for the Blu-ray release, so I can't wait to see it again in black and white. They did that with Mad Max. Yeah, so this will be really cool. I loved it. Like, this film, the only thing that stuck out to me was the continuity, but as I said, who cares? Who cares? Creativity over continuity. I'd rather have, a good story, a good character-driven film than have a film like The Wolverine or something that like ties in too much to continuity, or like Iron Man 2 where it's just too much continuity. So
too much setup.
Yeah, too much setup. This one definitely you can't say there's too much setup on this one. Yeah, so this one, not too much setup at all. So I love this film. I recommend seeing it in theaters. I saw it in IMAX. I think it's out of IMAX already because Kong's coming into IMAX now. I give it a score 9.5 out of 10, maybe 9 out of 10.
Wow. This movie,
I feel like that would be the most positive closing comment.
This movie's great. It's not bad at all by any means. It's definitely the best Wolverine film of all the other Wolverine films. That's not really hard to beat. It's definitely a lot better than the last couple of X-Men films we've had. Is it the all-time comic book movie? No. Definitely not. Winter Soldier, Civil War, still far up there. Avengers, The Dark Knight is fantastic. I don't know, out of 6 Wolverine claws, I'll give it 4 out of 6 Wolverine claws. So that's my ranking. Definitely go out there and see this film. Don't read too heavily into the Old Man Logan comic or any of the Old Man Logan comics going on right now, because you're not going to get that in this film, unfortunately. But it's a good way for Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart to leave the franchise. And I look forward to seeing X-23 in future installments, hopefully.
All right, now to Tim.
All right, well, I think I achieved what I set out to achieve here, is that there's some very positive things about this movie, but there's also some holes in it. And by no means is this a bad film. It's really quite the opposite. This is a very well done film. Mm-hmm. Jackman and Stewart were the shining stars of this. I think that the characters that they've portrayed for the last 17 years, they're engaging, they're enduring characters. And this movie, for the most part, services them to an acceptable and a satisfying end. There's some issues, I think, particularly with how each of them die, that I didn't particularly like. But for the most part, this is an expertly acted film. Daphne Keane, her part as X-23 was great. I liked the main villain. I think there was some big missteps in the third act. As we've kind of outlined here, I think it was a bit rushed, and I feel like with most X-Men films, the acting is always good, the characters are good, the story always falls short for me, and this doesn't really buck that trend so much. This is a definite recommend. The aspects and things that they promised about this film, they delivered on. It was a good ending to the Logan franchise. Like Troy said, this is by far the best solo outing of the Wolverine, and this is much better than the stuff that we've got recently from the X-Men franchise. Is it the best X-Men movie? I'm going to say no. I still like X2. I think that as we've seen, like, this is a very good solo Wolverine movie, but I think that his strongest portrayals are still in the team movies.
Yeah.
X2 and Days of Future Past in particular.
Oh, those
when
two
he is
fantastic
interacting
films.
with more people. Like, I think Jackman can hold the scene, no problem. He can hold a whole movie, no problem.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I think leveraging some of those other mutant characters in this universe, I think it just levitates the story a bit more. It gives some time to focus on other aspects and bring other types of character development and narrative into an overall story. Is this the best comic book movie? Clearly, because I don't think it's the best X-Men movie. I don't think it's anywhere near the best comic book movie of all time.
Okay.
I don't think it fits among the ranks of Dark Knight, Avengers, Guardians, Winter Soldier, Civil War. Like, I think these movies are on another level. I think this movie achieves to put itself into a different category. It looks like a Western. It's adapted, again, something different, a different genre, and brought that into the comic book movie fold. The similar way we saw Winter Soldier bring in that political spy thrill. The same way we saw Dark Knight change the game. There's a lot of talk that this was a game-changer movie. I see why people say that. I don't think because of the content, but I think because of the way it was done. I think that it's not the story that's a game changer. It is adapting a Western. It's doing something different. It's coming to a full stop conclusion with a character, and using this R rating, the violence in that, it was well handled. So overall, this is like I said, a definite recommend for me. Go check this out in theaters. It is something worth watching, but watch it with the caution that there are some holes in it still. It's not a perfect movie that people are portraying it to be, at least in my opinion.
You know, it's interesting because you were bringing up some of those other films, and they're a lot more comedic. You know, like you said, Guardians, and you said Avengers. And I really appreciate this. It was a totally different tone from the MCU, and it was so close to, like, the Dark Knight. Like, I often wonder, will I ever get to see a comic book film, as good as the Dark Knight? And for the longest time, I haven't had that. Well, the Dark Knight Rises as well. I know Troy has his thoughts on that film.
You're killing me here.
So let's say the Nolan trilogy, and this has come the closest I have felt. Just the tone of it, the character, the acting, the violence, the gore. It just felt like this, like, different breed. It kind of felt like, you know, its own film. You know, well, it is its own film, but, you know, it kind of felt like more serious, and I really appreciated that. You know, I'm just such a serious guy, and I just why so serious?
You're the opposite of serious.
Which is funny, but I just dig the seriousness of this film, and it treated the source material serious, you know, and it didn't take it, you know, some people say, who is it? The actress who plays the Wasp, Angeline Lilly. She was saying that DC Comics take their films too serious. And to me, I don't take that as a negative. I want the creators, I want the directors, the actors to take these things seriously. And Logan took it seriously, and I think it paid off for me. I appreciate that. That seriousness. Take a shot every time I say serious.
There you go.
So make sure you check us out on Sirius Radio.
So there it is, guys. That is our final recommendation for Logan. That was an exciting discussion. I'm glad that we didn't find ourselves agreeing on everything. Like that's what I love about these conversations, is that we have such differing opinions on things, and we find a way to find that middle ground. I found we all recommended this film. We all like this for different reasons, and I think that shows the diversity of opinion on not only on the podcast but amongst the fandom that we have here. And I see why this movie is hitting home with the general population, with the fanboys, all this. So all in all, great film, great discussion here, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure talking about Logan. And if you guys would like to have your input or comment on what we've discussed here, particularly when it comes to some of the points that were missteps or things that you really love that we did not discuss in any sort of detail, we'd love to hear from you guys. You can always email us at thenerdrm@gmail.com. Our Twitter handles are at the end of the episode. We're always all hanging out on Twitter, so you can grab us there. You can also comment on our Facebook or YouTube pages. All right, guys, until next week when we return in our normal Thursday slot to discuss all things comics and movies. For the Nerd Room, I'm Tim.
I'm Troy.
I'm Sunjay.
And thank you for entering the Nerd Room.
This has been a Nerd Room podcast production. You can find our hosts, Tim and Troy, on Twitter at TheNerdRM and Troy TheBoy87. Don't forget to subscribe to The Nerd Room on iTunes, Facebook, and YouTube. Just search The Nerd Room Podcast. Be sure to head over to StarWarsCommonwealth.com to find other podcasts on the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network, including Talk Star Wars, Generation X-Wing, Tumbling Saber, Rogue Squadron Podcast, and the Skyhopper Podcast. Follow the Star Wars Commonwealth on Twitter at SW Commonwealth and take your first steps into a larger world.